Welcome, everyone. I'm Renee Savoy from the State Department of Education. I work in the Performance Office, and thank you for joining our monthly dual credit Community of Practice session. Today's discussion is going to be focused on the computer science pathway, and this was rescheduled from the February session that had to be canceled due to some weather issues and availability of attendees, etc. I did have a little agenda here with some updates in the beginning, and then some of our guests that are here from AI Prince Tech, the technical high school system. And one of the individuals from AI Prince actually only has 20 minutes with us. So rather than do all of my update stuff in the beginning, we're going to hold that till the end. And we're going to launch right into the discussion. So our panelists today, and I was going to take a quick poll, but again, in the interest of time, I think I really would prefer to have a richer discussion for this first part of the session. So today with us, we have Lisa Higgins, who is the Director of School Counseling and Admissions at AI Prince Tech, and Sandra Mosby, the Information Technology Department Head for Prince Tech. And they're going to talk about their partnership with CT State. Due to some scheduling conflicts, the individual that we really wanted to have on the call from Capital Community College actually couldn't make it today. I do see Karen Heinrichs on the line, so maybe Karen, you'll want to speak up about any components of this partnership, but I'm going to turn it over to Lisa and Sandra to talk to us about how it works at AI Prince Tech.
Okay, I can start off. So Sandra's the actual instructor. So just a little bit about the technical high school. We offer dual programs, so our students do a trade as well as an academic program. They graduate with your traditional high school diploma, as well as certification in a trade. So we've had information technology as part of one of our trades for years now. So again, students graduate with that. Within each trade, sometimes we offer certain college coursework within the information systems technology trade. Students are allowed to participate in college career pathways through Capital Community College. And I'll let Sandra go into, how that works, but ultimately students can graduate with up to 18 credits.
Good afternoon, everyone. So the program that we're running through Capital, we have 6 courses that align. We align with Capital to make sure that they're in alignment with their curriculum. And so we offer those courses over a 3-year period. The kids start out in their freshman year, and then by their senior year, they have completed all of the 6 courses. And the courses range from introduction to computers to mobile CSP, where they build their own mobile app. We also offer graphics and introduction to software applications. So it's a variety of courses. But what happens in the technical school, there's no pathway, no set pathway. So the kids come in, we give them a little bit of this, a little bit of that. They learn about VEX robotics, virtual reality. So they're learning about a number of different trades in the IT space. But within the space, we do offer these. They go through these 6 classes, and as long as they pass them, they will earn the credit at Capital Community College. So I was looking at some of the questions that were sent to me prior to this. And so I'm going to answer the ones that I can directly answer. So it says, what are or where were your main challenges with getting the program started? It's always a challenge about getting the kids registered because we register them here instead of they're not registered at the college. So we end up having to send out forms to parents, and then the application comes back saying that they've forgotten social security numbers, so we have to go back and try to get that. The only saving grace to this is the registration is open until March. So if they come in September, they have until March to register. But we're still finding some challenges with getting all of the kids registered. I know one year Capital came in and did the registration on site, and that helped tremendously. But I guess with work flows and everything, they did not come in this year. So I have kids who have taken the courses, passed it, but they can't get the credit because they're not registered through Capital. So that has become a challenge for us. Another question was, what advice would you give districts looking to implement a computer science? It's all about marketing. So you have to market to the parents and the kids. The way that I do it through our open house is I market through them getting the 18 credits when they leave the technical high school. And so the parents are interested in that because that's 18 credits they don't have to pay for. And these credits transfer to any of the Connecticut technical, any of the schools in Connecticut. So that's a marketing aspect for us. One of the questions was, how do you generate interest in computer science opportunities? Well, we don't offer just computer science. That's an introductory course, but we offer the kids a number of different IT pathways that they could go down. Some are doing cybersecurity is hot now. AI is hot now. So they're doing those kind of pathways. We get them in, we give them the basics, but then they can go off to another area that they're interested in. So that's our curriculum here at AI Prince Technical High School.
I'm wondering, how long have you had your partnership with Capital?
Well, it was here before I became department head. I don't know. Lisa, do you know?
Yeah, I would say probably over 10 years now, and in different ways. For quite some time, we've been working with Capital.
And I know you already went through this, but it was quick in the beginning. You said they get 18 credits. You said there are 6 courses that they're
6
taking.
courses.
What are those
Yep.
courses again? I think you mentioned them.
Yes, I did. But I'll go through them. They introduction to computers, introduction to software applications, which is the Microsoft Office products, and once they take that, we have the kids sit for certifications, so they're able to get certified in all of the Microsoft Office products. Looks good, soft skills on their resume, so we encourage them to do that. If they don't pass it the first time, they always have the option to retake it, and I'm a proctor for those exams. We also do graphics design 1, which is Photoshop, Illustrator, Anime, introduction to programming, web design and development, and mobile computer science principles.
How many graduates? Hi, this is Ajit, Department of Education. How many graduates do you have from Prince Tech approximately in a year, and how many of them actually earn the 18 credits of those graduates? Do you think, about roughly? I'm not looking for exact numbers.
I can probably jump in. So again, we're a trade school. So when students apply, they understand that they're applying to a school that has trade offerings, and we have 15, and our IT program is one of those 15. So the max in each of our trades is 18 students. So I would say in regards to how many earn at least one course, which is 3 credits, so it goes anywhere from like 3 to 18 of students participating. If I were to give it a percentage, I would probably say 60 to 70%. And then I'll also just comment in regards to what Sandra said about the application process. So the application process has evolved over the years. So when we first started, it was just like a paper application, which I think was it was just seemed to be easier because it just worked. Whereas with now the registration being online and just like comparing it to other programs, I think that as time goes on, that there will be little tweaks that will help with the process. Because online is efficient, but there's just been, even because I was more hands-on with the registration process this year, and I came on late. And you can see, what it was is for us, I know what impacted our students is you register, and then in order for like the parent to approve the application, you have to do an additional step, which that wasn't really clear until, I would say I put an extra set of eyes on it. And in speaking to IT at Capitol, they did say that they're going to try to do some things to make it more user friendly. So I do think the application process can work really well with just like a few small changes. So hopefully they'll do that moving forward.
Great. And Karen, I see you have your hand up. Why don't you go ahead and give us the
Yeah,
CT State perspective?
Sure. I would say CT State has just updated our dual enrollment applications, so they're not separate. We used to have separate applications for high school partnership and concurrent enrollment. We now have the same application. It is online. It does require a parent signature. And it also does require or strongly recommend the student to check the box for FERPA regulations so we can share data back with school personnel at the high schools. One of the struggles that we find when we do applications back at the high school is a IT issue, that sometimes it's about the cookies and being able to shut off the cookies to allow for the type of streaming for IT for the online application. That is something that we want to work back with districts on. We're certainly happy to go out and register students. We also find that it's more effective if our college personnel comes out and we have a day in which we register students on your site. But it's also working back with your IT to make sure that the browser is able to be used to allow for the cookies to help with the application. So I highly recommend, if you do want to do partnerships with us, that that's something that works very effectively versus paper or any other times in which you guys are trying to do it, because sometimes it's very glitchy for you versus for us. I also would say one of the things that we have found in our practices throughout our 12 campuses is doing an orientation with students, making sure that those students know that they're a dual enrolled student, even with CCP, even if it's the high school teacher teaching the class, helping them to get a college ID, know they have access to all the college services as well, and then just walking them through our enrollment process.
Thanks, Karen. I see Sandra Sanford has her hand up. And I may need, you can unmute yourself. Perfect.
Yes, okay, sorry about that. Yes, I was just curious, what the process is as your teachers in, at Prince Tech, if your teachers leave, what's the process of getting the new teachers vetted?
So what we traditionally do, if we have a teacher that's interested, we have them reach out to Karen Bankhorst, and she's been great in sharing what needs to happen for the teacher to apply. So we just recently had a teacher that reached out to her, and I think that teacher's all set. So it was a relatively quick process. But yeah, it hasn't, if we have teachers that are interested and they have the qualifications, getting them certified has been seamless.
And just for clarification, in case you don't know Sandra, Karen Binkhorst is at Capitol, in case that wasn't clear.
Thank
All
you.
right, you're welcome. Seth, I see you have your hand up. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Karen. Seth from Newington. We've talked before, but I'm wondering if there's any updates with allowing ninth graders to earn credit through Capitol or CT State.
Hi, Seth. As you may recall, I mentioned that the college has an internal shared governance committee that is working on updating our policy. We're in the midst of that as we speak, and we are looking at the potential of ninth graders and making some parameters to equate for both what we do in concurrent enrollment as well as what we do on campus. And ninth grade is something that we are looking at. However, it's not yet past shared governance, and it does need to pass shared governance and go to the board to be voted on. But we are looking to open access to ninth grade students. And basically what we would be looking for is them meeting the same prerequisite as any other student.
Great, thank you. Since you're on the call, I figured I'd ask.
Yeah, so we're making progress. It just takes time. We're hoping to have the new policy in place for fall of next year. And similarly, Sandra, I know you asked a question about faculty credentialing, high school faculty credentialing. We're in the same boat. We are looking at same policy language in this committee to make sure that we set the same standards across all 12 campuses. And then if we need to have an alternative credentialing procedure. So when someone doesn't meet that particular process, we're looking at a procedure. You know, I like to use the example of if you had Eric Clapton ask to be an adjunct professor to teach music and he didn't have a master's in music, how could we demonstrate competency? So we're looking at that piece as well. We're hoping for that to be able to roll out in the fall. We certainly have heard our district partners and are trying to make sure that we're doing that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Are there other questions or for our AI Prince friends before I know Sandra needs to take off for another commitment? And I know we have a few people from the State Department of Ed on the line who are welcome to also ask questions. I know we have Cheryl Tokarski. She's our STEM project manager out of the academic office. Jen Michalik is math K-12, but also computer science. I know this is something that they're very interested in. Our chief academic officers here, Irene Parisi. Karen Amaker is our director for workforce and career readiness. So if anything comes to mind, feel free to ask now or later or whenever it strikes you. We're happy to keep the conversation going. And Karen, hi, Nick. I'm assuming the hand is an old hand or you have something new to say?
Nope, it's an old hand.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let me try to.
I've done that more than once.
Thanks, everybody. I have a class, so I have to get off and get to my class. Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Sandra. We appreciate that. So Ajit, do you want me to turn to some of those discussion questions? Is that how you want to go? Okay.
Yeah, I think we should just open this up. And I know you had a slide on this too.
I do.
I mean, we heard from AI Prince, but I mean, this is our community of practice, so we are here for open discussion. So are there others of you that have computer science pathways through our IHEs in Connecticut? Here are some sort of starter questions to get the ball rolling. You know, how many students are enrolled, or do you plan will enroll? I know some of you are building these pathways. What type of prerequisites are the courses prerequisites that you're offering for computer science or IT degrees? What have been some of your challenges? What advice would you give someone else? How do you market the program? And how do you engage even below the high school level? How do you interest younger middle school students through this? So you can weigh in on any of these questions or share something else about your program. So again, this is open forum. Just raise your hand and we'd love to hear from you. This is your time for sharing with each other. So.
I'm glad to share what's going on in Coventry, if that's okay.
That'd be
Sure.
great.
Sure, Michelle,
Sure.
please go ahead.
So we have, about 3 years ago, we added a semester 9th grade computer science principles course that's required for our students. And we just thought we'd try to get out ahead on it because we saw it coming. And next year, we're in collaboration with UConn, we're adding ECE Intro to Computing for Engineers. And there seems to be some strong student interest because we have that mandatory 9th grade course. And we're a small district. Our high school is just under 400 students, and we have 15 students currently enrolled in that new course for next year. So we're excited about it. We appreciate the community of practice. So thank you.
So just a clarification on that, Michelle, the 9th grade course that you were offering, was that a dual credit course or was that just a locally developed high school course?
Yeah, no, and we're still offering it. It's a locally developed high school course, and it's computer science principles, and all 9th graders are required to take it. It's a semester course. So we did a lot of work trying to look K-12 across the computer science standards. And I know there's lots of ways to approach it. And in a small district, you have to be really creative. But this was one thing we could do in our high school. We've done other things at other grade levels. And as a result of that being a universal experience for all 9th graders, we were able to really tap into student interest. And we did have we do have on our books an AP computer science course, but it was always very hard to get students in there. And we have a teacher who's pretty dynamic, and he is certified now to teach this new ECE course. So we're really excited about it.
That sounds great. I see Jen popped her hand up.
Yes, thank you. I'm interested more in what we just heard from Coventry in terms of it being a requirement for your grade 9 students. I think you said, was it ECE?
The ECE is not a requirement, but we're offering that next year as an elective. But there is a semester course that all 9th graders are required to take, computer science principles, and it's aligned to the framework.
Yep. So my question on that, I'm curious, how are you counting that half credit course in terms of your graduation requirements? As we've been thinking or trying to think more flexibly around the 9 STEM credits, have you done anything in that regard?
Yeah, I think that's how we are counting it, as one of those STEM credits.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Jen. And if I can jump back in, Renee, just to follow up with Michelle. Michelle, one more question. You mentioned this ECE educator or your educator getting certified by ECE. You know, can you say a little bit about the background of that educator? What did it take to get certified? I imagine this person doesn't have a master's in computer science.
I wonder if he does. I do not think he does. I can find out more information.
Well,
we just have our info system up, and I'm trying to see if I can look quickly and find out.
Okay.
But
No. I didn't mean to put you on the spot and trying to look up
No,
this thing, because I think I wanted to sort of second what Karen Hynek said before about looking at these alternatives for the Eric Claptons who are out there and John McLaughlin's and Al Di Meolas and whomever else that are out there to actually, you know, make it through these alternative pathways. So I was just curious to see if that was happening in this particular instance.
So Ajay, if I can jump in, because I have a little bit of knowledge in this area, and that is, first of all, courses like ECE, Mobile CSP, even AP Principles for that matter, in many cases, from the program, the provider, ECE being one that you're looking at instituting as an elective, those organizations have specific training programs. And in the state of Connecticut, for those of you on the call, thinking about how you might do this in your own districts, obviously the pathways with dual credit becomes a who's qualified based upon the IHE that you're partnering with. But as we start to build interest in these pathways, remember that for computer science, as long as you have a grade appropriately certified teacher, they are authorized to teach computer science. Now, obviously, you would not want someone who has no experience with computer science, but there's lots of training opportunities. And in many instances, we find that there are teachers in various certification areas that have high interest in computer science and are looking to do more. So just keep that in mind, that the way the current regulations are written from a Connecticut teacher perspective, grade appropriate certification is all that is required for computer science courses. So that's a way to build interest in your middle school students to lean into perhaps a dual or concurrent enrollment pathway in this area.
And Ajit, the answer to your question is our teacher has a master's in technology and engineering education.
And I imagine there was some sort of application to UConn, some review of that. And perhaps the person had to do another course at UConn. I don't know. Because I know sometimes UConn's or even, I don't know about CT State, Karen, might happen too, where they might say, I know this is great. We just want you to do this one additional course or something. Maybe that was not needed in this case, given the background of the individual.
He didn't need it. He has an interesting background. He's a man of all trades, and he's very interested and involved in aviation, and he teaches an aviation course in our high school. So he's a unicorn, Ajit.
I was just gonna say he was a unicorn.
So like a Jeff Beck who can like maybe go rock, jazz, lots of different genres. Okay, got it. Continuing that
Different
guitar theme. Yeah. Karen, I think, did you want to jump in?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Any other-
Yeah, other questions? Otherwise, we're going to switch to some boring grant stuff. So
Yeah, you've been
So-
warned. Well, we can pivot to the update stuff, and then if questions come up, we can reconvene and continue the discussion. But one last call for questions or comments. I know Lisa from Prince is still here, the Director of School Counseling. So if there's any burning questions we want to pose to Lisa, please do that. All right, I'm going to go to the updates. So my initial plan was to start with an update on the district dual credit expansion grants, and then talk a little bit about the grants that we're offering to institutions of higher ed. That's a newer development. So let's go to the district grant progress first. This is kind of like where we're standing. There's a lot of buzz right now about spending down these dollars that have been awarded in the form of grants to districts. So I wanted to provide some numbers for this group to see where we stand. If you remember way back when we first started talking about the grant awards back in September, I had provided all of you some indication of whether or not you were being funded with ARP-ESSER money or ARPA money. And the reason why that's important is that the deadlines associated with each bucket of money is a little different. For those of you who are funded through ARP-ESSER, it's a shorter timeline to be expending funds. ARPA has a little more time in some cases. So notice that we've got more districts in the ARP-ESSER category, but we've got a little more money in the ARPA category. A lot of our bigger districts are in the ARPA category. And you can see what the reimbursement requests have been as of March 8th, and that was like around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We've had a few more trickle in since then. So this will give you an idea of how much is still out there to be claimed. And these deadlines on this slide are pretty important. Ajit helped me with getting
let me-
those documented. So go ahead.
And I can jump in, Renee. I don't want
Yeah,
to
good.
put you in a spot.
I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to the different buckets of money.
In one of the other assignments that I've assumed more recently is to serve as the ESSER director for the state. So I've been dabbling in fiscal matters as well. in my spare time. So one of the things, so let's talk ARP ESSER first. Okay, so the first deadline to remember is the obligation deadline. So in your case, you've been awarded a grant and you have a total amount that you're working from. And within that total amount, you have decided to allocate certain amount to payroll, certain amount to contracts, some for purchases of supplies, whatever the case may be. You have to decide what you're going to spend the money on, the obligation. What are you committing it to before September 30th of this year? I would say well in advance of that. Most of you are probably already set with that in your budget. You know what you're going to spend it on. That's great. But if you want to move anything around, now is the time, like now, like to figure out, make budget revisions, get that approved. Because after September 30th, we're not entertaining any budget revisions. And if you can't spend the money, it's going back to US Treasury. So please, if you look at your budgets, make sure the obligations, the plans that you have for these funds are good and that you have committed these funds. So what does committed means? What does obligated mean? Those are interchangeable. I'm using them interchangeably. That if you want to purchase something like a service or a contract, that you actually have a contract and a PO is cut before September 30th. You can't cut a PO after that date. You can't make new obligations after that date. So the obligation deadline is September 30th for ARP ESSER. That's huge, okay? When it comes to paying your own district staff salaries, that deadline is also September 30th, meaning the obligation deadline is also the liquidation deadline, the funds by which money must be spent, which means the paycheck, the pay date on that paycheck must precede September 30th. It can't be after September 30th. So really important. Because these things will show up on audit after the fact if they're not proper. So we don't want any of you to be in that type of situation. So make sure you obligate your money by September 30th. And if you're paying your own staff, payroll, which is lines 100 and 200 in the budget, payroll and benefits, make sure you get them done by September 30th. Now, if you have contracted services, if you're purchasing something through a contract where you get an invoice and you're making payments on an invoice, not a payroll. In that case, you do have a longer time frame. You still have to obligate that by September 30th of 24, but you can spend it for a longer period of time. So you can have the contractor do work past September 30th and pay for those. The current deadline is January 28th, 2025, but there is a possible extension we can seek from the feds, and there's a good chance we'll get it. Don't bank on it, but a good chance we'll get it. That will allow us to go as far as March of 26, March 31st of 2026. So really 14 months after January 25. So for example, let me give you another strategy here in terms of how you're thinking about this. So let's say you budgeted some money for your staff payroll and benefits, and let's say you don't need that now, or you paid it through some other funds, state funds or some other federal funds. You can take the money you put in payroll and you can move it to a contract. Not only but you have to make sure the contract and the PO are done by September 30th. So once you do that, you have a longer runway to spend the money. So your dollars can go a longer way. I say this because, it's 1.8 million, and so far we've only spent 260,000. We still have a long way to go. So if you already have spent stuff, please claim it, please draw it down, because money left on the table goes back to the feds. Nobody wants that. So that's ARP ESSER timelines, okay? ARPA is a little more flexible. So in the case of ARPA, the obligation deadline, the date by which you must make your commitments, your contracts, your POs, et cetera, is December 31st, 24. So at the end of this calendar year. So you have like 3 more months to make your obligations if you're ARPA funded. Salary deadline liquidation currently is December 31st, 2024 for your own staff. So you get a few more months to do that. Because what we did was we took some of our bigger dual credit grants and put them under ARPA. So those are the larger district grants are in the ARPA bucket. And then the liquidation deadline for contracts, not for payroll, right? For contracts is December 26th. So you do have a longer window with ARPA funds. So under the ARPA, the last column, that district salaries, like I said, currently it's December 31st, 2024. there is a possibility that you might get a longer window on that, but I'm not guaranteeing it. Try to get that out of the way by December 31st, 2024. I mean, these are not huge grants, so these are pretty small grants. So make sure you spend the money, and that one, we've only spent 67,000. I mean, sweating a little bit here, so please, these are grants to help you all, so, use them, act on them, and request those reimbursements for those expenses, and we want to get this money out the door. So, any questions on obligation? Let me look at the chat here. Okay, so you just put the link there. Yep, whether you're ARPA or ARPA. Okay, that's good to know, Leslie, as well. So thank you for that. Any questions on obligation and liquidation deadlines? Right. Please don't hesitate to reach out, and clarify, because we're here to help. So seriously, please ask.
And I will add that I know that I've had some back and forth with some individuals about changes to what they intend to spend their money on and proposed revisions to their application. And I understand that most of the formal communication, as far as approvals and whatnot, are happening with your fiscal people and me, but feel free to run questions by me in advance. It's actually really helpful to me, because when I go in and look at the revision, I know what I'm looking for, I know what to expect, and I can more efficiently approve those requests. So feel free to reach out to me with other questions. The next piece I wanted to share with all of you was, again, part of our overall expansion efforts for dual credit, but this is a newer development. So recently, we reached out to Connecticut's public and private institutions of higher ed, and we invited them to express interest in a grant that, again, we're using COVID relief funds for, to increase dual credit capacity on their end, while at the same time providing no cost enrollment for students who are eligible for free or reduced price lunch for the next 3 years. So this is a way for them to build out too, but to financially support some of that. Since we are a state, we've talked about this in prior meetings, where we do not really have a dedicated funding stream for dual credit. It's something that we want to work toward. I think this is a good first step toward getting there. And also to support the work of our institutions of higher ed, along with our K-12 partnership, we executed a 3-year contract with the National Alliance of Concurrent Enrollment Partnerships, or NACEP. And we talked about this early on, I think in our September dual credit community of practice, that it was coming. Well, now it's official. The contract is out. We've picked dates for a series of webinars that NACEP is going to offer. They're going to have an in-person quality institute over the summer that we'll be announcing. And NACEP is going to help us while we're expanding the number of opportunities for students. We want to also at the same time ensure that those are quality opportunities. And that's what NACEP is going to help us do. So they're going to be providing technical assistance to us, to K-12 partners, to IHEs, so that we can implement best practices around concurrent enrollment, with the ultimate goal of all of our institutions of higher ed earning NACEP accreditation. Currently, UConn is NACEP accredited. That's the only Connecticut institution that has NACEP accreditation, but we'd like to have that sort of sign of quality in all of our institutions that are offering concurrent and dual enrollment for our students. So the very first webinar, so it's part of the greater umbrella of efforts, is going to be actually tomorrow at the same time. So we've got like this sort of double header happening. And I did send out a registration link to all of the post-secondary readiness leads, as well as my dual credit contacts for the IHEs. But Ajit, if you have access to that registration link that went out recently to superintendents, if you could go ahead and put that in the chat, that would be great. And then finally, to get a fuller picture of everything that's been happening as far as expanding dual credit. There is a link in this slide presentation to a report that we recently issued to the legislature on dual credit expansion efforts. You can get a little deeper on some of these topics. I saw a question came in while I was talking. What sorts of technical assistance would a high school receive if we participate in the webinars with NACEP, or is the webinars more for IHEs? I think the webinars are actually for both. And it is required, really, that the institutions of higher ed have this collaboration, this connection with their K-12 partners in order to be able to meet the requirements of NACEP accreditation. So it is definitely a partnership. So I do think that there is worthwhile learning opportunities for our high school staff in participating in these NACEP events. And I would actually, because this is sort of new to us too, I would encourage you to attend the webinar tomorrow and ask our NACEP colleagues what kinds of technical assistance they have provided to K-12 partners in the other states where they're doing work. I think this is kind of like a learning experience for all of us. I know one of the things that they mentioned yesterday on a call is that they would be having office hours. That's probably more geared towards IHEs, is my assumption, where they can just kind of casually, informally ask questions of the NACEP representatives as they kind of embark on this journey towards more and more partnerships and this ultimate NACEP accreditation. And Jen is thanking us for sharing what's going on in the computer science space. She's always all ears and wants to learn what's happening in districts. I know she has connections to some districts, but it's always good to hear from a varied group of individuals. So thank you for coming, Jen. Did you want to add anything about the NACEP partnership or the IHE grants or anything like that, Ajit?
So let me actually mention, so NACEP, right? So we have a contract, and the reason why I think high schools would benefit from attending, I like the way NACEP explains it, is that they operate in that middle space between college and high school. So they're operating in that middle space where both entities are figuring out those policies that happen in that middle space, and that's what they specialize in. So while more of the I don't want to say work, but more of the governance, if you will, is at the higher ed space, because ultimately they are the ones issuing the college credit, and we are in K-12 seeking that opportunity. It is really important for us to know what are their expectation, or what is expected of IHEs in this space, because when they ask us of things, it actually helps to know why they're asking that. Ultimately the faculty are considered college faculty. So I think for a whole host of reasons, I think if as much as we can participate in those NACEP offerings, I think they would actually be really beneficial to you as well. So I would definitely encourage that. In terms of this report that's referenced here, the one thing I'll mention is that pursuant to this report, and given some of the things in this report too, there is a Senate Bill 14, the governor's bill, actually talks about the department conducting a study to explore the feasibility of a statewide dual credit program. It doesn't say appropriation or money, it says program, but I mean, the hope is that if we can articulate what a program should look like, that the legislature will see fit to say, okay, for this type of program, we should put money out there, some dedicated state appropriation that sort of supports that middle space. So this report, the additional study in the Senate Bill 14, 1-4 are all sort of steps in that direction. So, and Renee, I couldn't find that registration link. So if you,
I'll get it.
yeah.
In the meantime, Julie.
And Julie, I see you have your
Yeah.
hand up. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hi, thanks. So quick question about the grants to the IHEs.
Yeah.
Do they follow the same deadline for like the obligation and spending?
Yes, they do. So the ARPA, so the
Mhm.
IHE grants are coming from ARPA funds, not the ARPESA funds. So you have to obligate them by December 31st, 2024. And if you're a private university like UB, you have until December 31st of 2026 to spend the money. So what that means is you cannot change your obligations after December 31st, 2024. So let's say you want to spend 25,000 on staff salaries and 50,000 to buy a registration software. I don't know, making it up. You can't, after December 31st of 24, say, oh, I want to not pay 50,000 for this thing. I want to cut a new PO and do a new contract. No, it's too late at that point. So you got to figure out what you're going to spend your money on and commit to it by December 31st. But then you have until December 31st of 26 to actually spend your money. For state universities, there's a wrinkle. I'll just finish this one point, Julie. So for state universities, the only wrinkle is that state university staff salaries, because they're considered state employees, those state employee paychecks cannot be dated after December 31st of 24. Private universities, you don't have that restriction because it's considered like the money has left the state, so to speak, as a private entity. So please go ahead.
Yeah, so then the next question is, when should we anticipate submitting this budget? Like, what's the timeline? Because,
In the next month.
okay, perfect.
So we'll have a grant shell in our EGMS system. The higher eds are already in there. You have budget people who are already set up to go into our electronic grants management system and submit budgets. So the guidance for IHEs is, you know how much your grants are for, start developing your budgets and keep it detailed, like that. Tell us really what you're planning to spend your money on, because we're going to need to have enough detail in there that tells us where the money is going. From an audit perspective, we need to have that documented. We're not going to make you do a big grant application with goals, objectives, and whatever, but we are going to basically ask for a very detailed budget.
Great, by the end of this month or April? I'm
No,
sorry.
it's going to be April.
April.
It's going to be
Okay,
April, yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
But you could start working on the budget, and maybe we can even follow up with a shell of the budget so that you know what the lines are and what they're for, and you could start to like put dollars into buckets.
Yeah, especially with, for accreditation purposes, the fee is like $1,600. And so it helps us to think through how that is going to get spent.
And that would be a contract that, all of you have till December 26th to spend that.
Perfect.
Yep.
And I did put the registration link for tomorrow's session with NASEP in the chat. So that should work.
Great. Thanks, Renee.
And Karen, I see your hands up.
Will it be recorded in case people can't make that time?
Oh, yes. Yep, definitely. But please register even if you know you can't make it, because I'll be sending the recording link to everyone who registered.
And
And
it'll be posted on the dual credit website as well. So we'll post it up there as well.
Yep, and we're gonna build out the dual credit opportunity site with an additional section that's just gonna focus on the NASEP events. That's not there yet, but we can definitely get the recording posted before that's ready. Any other questions before we wrap up today? All right, I think we can give you back the last 11 minutes of your day. And I will be sending around a link to the recording of this session along with the slides, if you want those as a reference. So I'm expecting that probably won't go around until next week. My web connection is out until Monday, so it'll be coming soon enough though. But thank you for attending. Thank you for the questions and commentary. We really appreciate it.
Take care, everyone.